Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, my name is Mike P. Jaworski. I am the co-host from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most from the co-host with the most. Joining you here on The Rundown, where we bring you 2A views, conservative news, and beverages on Thirsty Thursday, right?
Beverages on Thirsty Thursday. That's right. The weekend has officially started. There you go. Nice, nice, nice. Well, I have my cold one here as well. Hold on, wait. My cold one here as well. There you go. How about them Cowboys?
Oop, man, that thing hits so good, my camera jumped. Hold on a second.
Good stuff, good stuff. Hey, folks. Hey, all of you out there, if you're watching or if you're listening, do us a quick favor. Make sure, share. Encourage your friends to tune in. Let them know they can watch us on OpsLens. They can watch us on Rumble. They can watch us on Facebook, YouTube. They can actually listen if they just want to listen, whether on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Apple iTunes, you name it. There's tons of places to tune in to The Rundown. All you got to do is look for us.
Very cool. Hey, look, you see my little bottle opener on one end, but 3/8 inch wrench on the other.
Oh, that is handy right there. That can probably solve 2/3 of the problems that you have in life.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Or let me clarify. Or should I say 3/8 of the problems you have in life?
Oh, there we go. Perfect. It's actually good. That was a good one. I like that.
All right, sir. Well, hey, let's jump right into it, shall we? Because I think the first story, once again, is the story that's been out there for a while, but there appears to be some new news relating to the mass casualty event that took place in Texas. It was basically the school shooting. Mike, now people always give us a hard time when we say, maybe we should wait and actually get more information before we start casting judgment on stuff so that we can actually determine, before we, take a look at actually what is going on, right? Well,
yes.
as it turns out, there's some interesting stuff going on, and I'm switching over here to the other. Let me get you back on the screen. Because I don't have the story. I have to get the story loaded. But it turns out that there were actually cops were there. They got there and they waited up to 40 minutes before they would eventually go in and attempt to take down the shooter. Now, Mike, you work a lot with law enforcement, so I know that you have a particular take on this.
Yeah, in 21 years in law enforcement as well. Craig, this is gross negligence on part of these police officers. Absolute gross negligence to the point where I hope they lose their jobs and maybe even face charges. It has been taught for years. I'll say this up front. In the beginning, Craig, the proper procedure that was taught was you get to the scene, you surround the scene, you wait for SWAT team or the specialized unit to come in. And that was determined after Columbine to not work, right? So from the Columbine shooting, it was we get as soon as we have the first two officers there on the scene, we move to contact. You do buddy cover, you move through, and you go straight to the sound of gunfire to end the threat, because we know that most of the time when confronted, these guys are either going to cower down, eat their own gun, or just allow themselves to be shot. Even so, if they turn those guns and point them at the police, guess what your job is? Your job is not to write tickets. Your job is not to quell barking dogs. Your job is to save lives. Now, I understand what the Supreme Court has said, but if you have joined the police department or sheriff's office, state police, border patrol, whatever it happen is, without the goal of saving lives, of putting yourself between good and evil, then you need to take your badge off, put it on the ground, and go home. Walk away. All right. So after Columbine, they realized that this two thing didn't work, and they went to single man entry. Single man entry. First cop on the scene goes inside. We saw at Parkland down in Florida was the single deputy that was assigned to the school. Now remember, there were 11 buildings on that school grounds, if I recall, and
Yeah.
he was, of course, 11 buildings away in the gym, furthest away when this happened. By the time he got there, within that 60, 90-second period later, he showed up just in time to hear the last two shots. Well, that's what happens there on 11 building campus on a school.
Right.
However, there were other deputies and supervisors outside that heard these shots and knew what was going on and chose to park miles away and blocks away, and take their time because they were afraid. Cowards, what they are. And listen, sometimes you don't know until you hear that first bullet whiz by your ear whether you could go in and face those bullets. Same thing goes for firemen as well. They don't know if they're gonna be able to break that door down and go inside where the fire is. All right, it's same as a paratrooper. It's hard to throw yourself into danger. Okay, and most people don't know until it's time. And but to have an entire agency policy that says we're not going in complete contradiction to what's been taught for the last 10 years in law enforcement. First person goes in, first person arrives on scene, get behind your gun and go find the bad guy. That's what you do, because every second is another one of these kids' lives that's lost, and it's your job to stop that. And if they didn't do it, fire them all, bring them up on charges all day long.
Well, Mike, and what's even more frustrating is, so one of the things that I've talked about is, first of all, understanding that there is no one solution. There is no one thing, one magic bullet that's going to solve this thing. But there are lots of little things, or lots of separate things that we can do. One of them is, once again, making sure that we take appropriate steps to, with the infrastructure, to put in infrastructure that makes it harder for people to get on and off of campus without being recognized, without being seen, or without potentially being stopped. And it sounded like, this is something that a lot of schools have done. I don't know that I think they had something in this case, but the fences, from what I could tell, were only like 4 feet high. So I don't know how good that was. The other thing is having a plan, and evidently this school had a plan. But part of that plan involved law enforcement response. And when law enforcement got there and amassed outside and waited 40 minutes, well, in context, let me just put it to you this way. Newtown took 4 minutes, right? 4 minutes from beginning to end. That's just crazy when you think about the fact that, and by the way, that's the reason why I will continue to say that individuals need to be given the right and the ability to defend themselves, even on school grounds. And so my argument was simply, I'm not saying you arm all teachers, but I'm saying that if you have, and you and I can agree on this, if you have instructors or school staff who have a concealed carry permit, meaning they've been trained, they've been tested, they've been background checked, and they want to continue to defend themselves and those around them while at work at school, they ought to be able to do that, right? Now, I have people say, well, there were cops that were there and they didn't do anything. So what makes you think, or wouldn't do anything, what makes you think that a teacher would? And my position to them is this: by saying that the cops didn't do anything, it bolsters my argument, because I have always said we are our own first responders. And if the people who are supposed to be protecting me won't protect me, then I ought to have the ability to be able to protect myself. If I can't guarantee that they are going to, because we know the Supreme Court said they are not legally required to protect me, right? I ought to be able to protect myself, protect the ones I care about, the kids that have been put in my care. I ought to be able to do that. And by the way, in the event that, they do, it's better to have more individuals who are in a position to be able to defend these children than to have less individuals who are in a position to be able to defend the kids.
Yeah, the difference between the cops standing outside and the teachers inside is the teachers now are the ones standing between the bad guy and the children. And I would much rather my teacher have the option to carry their Glock 21 or their Glock 43 with them while standing in front of my children, instead of throwing erasers at them. That's
right.
I'm sorry, that's all it comes down to it. And again, the majority of the time when we see these bad guys actually confronted by somebody that could do damage to them, they scurry off and do themselves in.
Right. Well, and by the way, the other bit of new information that we have is, once again, we have seen that this was an individual who was highly troubled, had demonstrated he had issues with his mother was evidently a drug addict. He had an argument with his grandmother, and which is probably the reason why he tried to kill her. He was
Yeah,
communicating with.
shot his grandmother in the face or something?
I don't know if he shot her in the face, but he definitely shot her. Um,
Well,
he,
that was the ticker on the bottom of the Fox News yesterday.
oh,
Suspect shoots grandmother in the face. It was like it was a movie ad.
right. But Mike, here's the thing. My point is, this is an individual who had who had issues, right? Clearly had issues.
Right.
If you shoot your grandmother in the face, you got issues. I mean, that's got to be a pretty bad grandmother if you're shooting her in the face and she deserved it. I'm not saying that she's not. I'm just joke, y'all, joke out there. Just saying. But
don't go shoot no grandmas in the face.
Don't. They don't deserve it. But the point is that we have a generation of people, and this is part of the solution is, what we do in our school district is we actually are working in institute programs to help kids, number one, understand, to recognize their feelings, to understand, appropriate responses and inappropriate responses, and to help them to be able to respond to those emotions, those angers, the frustrations and all that, how to respond to it appropriately, how to deal with conflict and deal with it appropriately, right? Those seem to be skills that that this generation or younger generations have not figured out how to do it, because they seem more likely to resort to violence, in this case, violence involving firearms. This is a long-term solution, but this is the sort of stuff that we ought to be dealing with, talking about how we deal with that, and then also talking about how do we identify and then how do we address threats or potential threats, and get them the help they need before it turns violent. Now, none of these, including allowing teachers to carry on campus or hardening school targets, none of these in and of themselves are the solution. But all of them can help reduce the likelihood of tragedies like this having the impact that this one did.
Yeah, Craig, is it the right? Is it, listen, look at all the things that are proposed out there to stop this. And that's where you and I come in, right? That's where the Second Amendment Foundation, that's where all of us that are pushing for the Second Amendment come in. We have to say, oh, listen, that sounds like a great idea. And it might even seem like a good idea. But when you look at it in person, all you're talking, you look at it in context, look at it deeply, all you're talking about doing is taking rights away from those that have done nothing wrong. So at what point do you give up, security for freedom, or give up freedom for security? It's, you mentioned about the fences around the school as we started this. Greg, I don't need fences around my kids' school. Maybe the little 4-foot fence, like you said, so I don't have to worry about toddlers running in the street or anything like that. But I don't need that. If I know I've got good infrastructure at the school, if I know I've got good policy at the school, if I know I've got teachers that are allowed to defend themselves at the school, I don't need my kids' school to look like a penitentiary. I want it to look nice and pleasant for them. And again, we talk infrastructure. If Craig, those doors, when you kick them shut, you can't get through them. You can't shoot through the wall. You can't shoot through the door. You can't shoot through the window. What do I need a fence for? Why am I making it look like a prison instead of hardening the walls rather than the exterior?
We just did major renovations, practically almost rebuilt all 5 of the schools in our district, and we have fences around the district, and it doesn't look like a prison, and the kids don't feel like they're in a prison when they're there. I just always find it funny that we talk about, well, we don't want it to feel like a prison. Well, whenever we go to sporting events or we go to big venues or stuff like that, those very things are in place, and we don't feel like it only feels like a prison if you tell them it feels like it's a prison. Just to me, just like when I keep hearing people talk about, my kids are scared. Well, what are you telling your kids that has them so darn scared?
Right. Yeah. Listen, you and I had to get under a desk to avoid nuclear bombs. Don't tell me about being scared in school. Okay.
Right.
Listen, there's just big difference.
Yeah.
I don't know, Craig, and I'm not talking about, listen, when I go to a sporting event, they got all them big signs and they got all the metal detectors that say no guns and they got all the fences and everything up. And you've been with me, and I walk right through them things and beat them detectors every time because I might be going into their prison compound, but I'm not going to let them let my life depend on their level of inadequate security.
Right.
So,
By the way, we do know that no weapons are allowed in prison, right? And they never get
correct.
weapons in prison.
That's right. Never at all. Never at all. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
folks, you can rest assured there will be plenty of new news, new stories, new information that's going to be coming out. And by the way, this is why we always continue to say, before you start showing your outrage, before you start, wait for the data, wait for the information to come in, because
Yeah.
we're going to learn stuff. And when we learn stuff, it then is going to change our perspective as to how this could have happened. And you know, at least folks on the right generally tend to lean more towards, you know, let's get more information. Folks on the left tend to be, take them guns, take them guns.
Yeah. That's it.
So anyway, that's why we always encourage more information.
Yep.
All right, moving right along. ATF's illegal gun registry. You know, Mike, now that I think about it, you shared this story, and I think you probably have a little bit more detailed information on this, having, you know, being an FFL, having a lot of this background information on ATF and what they're doing with this registry. Maybe you could share with folks a little bit, share this story with folks.
Yeah, the lies of ATF, you know, and this pops up every 4 or 5 months now. It seems like it's a repeating story in the cycle. You know, you've got a couple different methods here of how ATF gets their contact information. One, when you call in the background check, they only receive the information of the individual on the 4473 and the type of firearm, rifle, shotgun, pistol, that kind of thing. No particulars beyond that. But all of the information is stored there on the 4473, and then it has to be kept by the dealer for 20 years, which is proposed to be lifetime as well right now under the new Biden administration rules. And then you take the ATF, and they can come inspect it anytime they want. Other law enforcement agencies have to have a subpoena or a warrant to get it. ATF can come take it at any time. Now, here's the big one, Craig, and this is what they really are enjoying, is when an FFL moves, an FFL changes license, an FFF goes out of business, retires, whatever, they send all of those records, thousands and thousands and thousands of records up to the holding center in Virginia, in West Virginia. And the ATF is, you know, trying to pat themselves on the back here over the past year or two and said, yes, we've converted over 1 million records into digital form. Did you hear what I said? They said it took over 1 million records, and I believe it's actually more than that now. Put them into digital record, which is a searchable database, Craig. Now they say, oh no, we turned off the searchable part. We turned it off. So they took the switch and said, searchable, click off. I don't know how you do that. They could never click it back on. So the ATF has the largest database of firearms owners, people that have purchased firearms at some point in their life, and now they have it. They can check it anytime they want to. Just like on the TV show when they say, found a gun at the scene, we read the numbers, it came back to Jonesy on 14th Street, we're going to pick him up right now. That's what the ATF now has, right? Whether or not that guy, and remember, most of those records that they have are the former FFL locations. So Mr. Jonesy might have bought that gun 25 years ago and sold it 20 years ago to buy a new gun. But when they're sold, nobody takes them off. All right. They just trade it back in. So they've got records of him having received a firearm, and now they're going to go start from there, bother this old man to take his gun. They've got the database. They've got a national database in direct opposition to what the 1986 Gun Control Act had.
Right, because it's not, by the way, like you said, the information normally that they would have would only be that so-and-so bought a certain type of firearm. But now what they've got is they've got a searchable database to know exactly what firearm you purchased, right? So in other words,
whether they go to the dealer and look through those batch
right.
that they currently have, or all the ones that have been turned in. Yeah, they know exactly what it is, down to the serial number, the manufacturer, the date of delivery, every bit of it.
So in other words, folks, as they decide, yeah, no, they won't know that you just bought a rifle. They will know that you bought an AR-15.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the sort of stuff we're talking about. So they're going to be able to basically know exactly, and they're going to know the serial number of it. They're creating exactly what it is they're not supposed to create, and that is a firearms registry. Because, Mike, why are we so against the idea of a firearms registry?
Oh, because registry is the first step in confiscation, Craig. When it's time to
Exactamundo.
decide, when it's time to decide, you know what? We don't like you having the weapons anymore. We're going to protect you by taking them from you. Guess how they find out? Listen,
Right.
it's corny. You saw the movie Red Dawn. The first thing that happened was, I want you to go to the local convenience store, pull the 4473s, and know who the gun owners are, and go take their guns.
Right. Well,
And if they didn't have them, what'd they do? They put them in the big fence compound and shot them all.
well, and now you have places like California, which is actually going to start requiring both serial numbers and background checks on quote unquote precursor parts, which, by the way,
Yeah.
is a made up word that the California lawmakers made up. It's basically gun parts. And I'm going to imagine that one of those gun parts that they're going to look to require it for are going to be magazines. And when they ban them, they're going to know who bought them, who bought magazines, and then they're going to know. Then they're going to know exactly where to go, whose house to go to confiscate those firearm parts.
I have a precursor part right here, Craig. This is a
Yep,
3/8 inch wrench, and I can, excuse me, a 5/8 inch wrench, and I can use this to put a barrel nut on. So, or excuse me, flash
that's a
hider.
precursor
So
part. I
right
hope you have
there,
a serial number for that.
it's a, I do. It's a 5/8 is the serial number.
5/8, five
Yeah,
slash eight.
five
There you
slash
go.
eight. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. All right, here's one. Now, those of you who have watched the show for a long time know and understand what red flag laws are. Those of you who are in the Second Amendment advocacy community know and understand what red flag laws are. Many of you who are just watching because you like conservative news, let me tell you what a red flag law is. It's basically where someone you may or may not know can go to a judge and have you deemed to be a danger to yourself or others. That judge then issues an order that basically takes away your right to keep and bear arms, or your right to be able to own or possess firearms. Now, in California, with that comes a gun seizure warrant, which gives law enforcement the ability to search any place they believe you might have your firearms, your home, your place of business, your girlfriend's home, wherever, or boyfriend's home, wherever you might have a gun. Now, mind you, these things are done. These things are done where you don't know about these orders. These are done. You're not there, right? So now a judge has issued a warrant to law enforcement telling them this person is a danger to themselves or others, and they may be armed. Go take their guns. And that's all the information they're given. You're sitting at home alone, and then all of a sudden, here comes law enforcement with candies and flowers to take away your guns. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. They show up in tactical gear, armed to the teeth, in numbers to take your guns, right?
Unless, unless it's the Uvalde Police Department, then they're going to wait 40 minutes for the TAC team.
Right, there you go. Unless it's them. Well,
Yeah.
well, now you've got people who are pushing these things. And the worst part, Mike, is that you've got people who call themselves conservatives or Republicans, like David French, who are pushing red flag laws as a way in which to address issues like this. Now, the biggest issue, that I think most of us have when it comes to red flag laws isn't the idea. I mean, we're not against the idea of taking guns away from the people who shouldn't have them, or people who are potentially dangerous. But it's the fact that in 95% of the cases, in matter of fact, I don't even know one of these laws that's passed where you actually get a hearing before you lose your rights. But in just about every place these laws are in place, you lose your rights before you ever get your day in court.
Yeah, you don't even know you lose your rights, right? You're just sitting there waiting for the police to come take your guns, or you're not waiting for it. It just happens. That's the problem that we have with this, Craig, is no due process, right? No due process. And we see what's going on. We see that when you go to the liberal police departments or liberal sheriff's offices around your state, around the nation, you see that it's a small minority of them doing the majority of the seizures based on these red flag laws, because they are anti-gun and anti-firearm, who believe only the government should have the firearms, then everybody would be protected. So that happens all the time. But that's the problem. That's the issue we have. No due process. Craig, if you were to be served with a domestic violence injunction today, they would come to your door, and a service would come to your door and go, here you go. Here's your injunction. You're given these stipulations right now. And in 10 days, 10 to 15 days, if you elect a hearing, you can have a hearing in front of the judge to go over it. most of the times when they select the 10 to 15 day option, they're dismissed. It turns out to be misunderstandings, divorce disputes. Are there honest to goodness domestic violence issues out there? Absolutely. And they get handled appropriately for the most part. If you did this with firearms and you said, listen, sir, we're here to take your firearms. There's been an allegation of its possible violence. But don't worry, select your court date right now and you can come and get them. Here, we're going to do a complete inventory of the firearms. First off, the thing you do is you tell your lawyer, you say, lawyer. And when they say, where's your guns? You go, in the safe that I forgot the combo to. So make sure you do that. Remember, you have to let them in your home. You don't have to give them. You don't have to help them. All right. So, but yeah, that's it. Then let them take the firearms if they do it. You document, they document, let them go. And it's got to be a good, honest to goodness, fair hearing and fair trial. The one side gets to produce their case, the other side gets to produce theirs. If it's not a good case, you get your firearms back. And also, Craig, what I want to see in there is if they file a false report, if the judge deems that it was a bogus report, that it was one of these divorce case kind of things, as opposed to maybe there was an issue, but it wasn't as serious as it was believed to be. If the judge determines that this was bogus and meant to harass, charge that person with a crime on the spot.
I guess my issue, man, is I don't believe you should even be able to take the firearms before you get your day in court. I don't support that idea. Because I give you an example. In California, what we noticed, the group that I worked with, the Firearms Policy Coalition, did a breakdown, and they realized that in the cases where the individual was deemed to shouldn't have lost their rights, 80% of the time they didn't get their guns back.
Agreed.
80% of the time they didn't get their guns back.
Yeah. And that's why I said it's got to be a legitimate shot to get it back. Because we know a lot of the agencies are going to throw those hurdles up. And Craig, let me say this, and then maybe you could get there for me. I am perfectly willing to hear a better idea and adapt my belief to that. I cannot think of a better idea because there's no way I could get the police come today and I get a hearing today, or hearing within 48 hours. It's not going to happen. If you can lead me to a better drinking water hole, I'll drink from it with you.
I think if someone files for it, then guess what? You should be able to be there when they request it. Get the court date.
How does that happen, Craig? But just realistically,
if someone puts in a request for it, right? The judge, they have to go before the judge to determine whether or not you should lose your rights. You should be able to be at that hearing.
And how long do I have to get to that hearing?
However long, whatever date they set the hearing at.
So you're saying that if there's a compelling threat that law enforcement believes there may be an issue, let's say we've got straight up cops, not these gun grabbing ones, and they tell you, well, listen, the standard wait time is 10 to 15 days.
I'm sorry. I will always side on the side of defending our rights.
And I know I'm obviously for defending my rights, but when a bad guy is out in the street talking crazy and doing nonsense, 10 to 15 days is just going to leave you with dead people at school.
If you are threatening people, number one, that is a crime.
That's what a red flag law is for threatening people,
right?
That's what the red flag. That's what their argument is. Red flag laws are for threatening people, not for crimes.
Well, yeah. If you are threatening people, you've already broken the law, and therefore can't have your firearms taken away.
Craig, I'm going to come across the country and I'm going to shoot you. Right. That's not a realistic threat. It's not a realistic threat. But that's the kind of thing that I think a red flag law should address.
Depends on who's making it. But I mean, but Mike, people are literally most of the red flag laws that are being put or that people warrants that people are going after. It's not as clear cut as that. As well, okay, I'm going to come over there and shoot you. It's not that. It's not that clear cut. Yeah, something like that. You've now threatened somebody, and that makes sense. That is now an imminent threat. But that's not what most of these red flag laws are. It's, he's said some angry things online, and I know he owns guns. That's the sort of stuff. Well, I feel scared around him, and he has a tendency to be violent, and he owns guns.
Craig, no, I agree with you. We have complaints at the level of the Facebook guidelines. Okay, is what we're talking about. I made a complaint that I wanted to go punch Beto O'Rourke in the Dizzy thing after he did what he did to Ted Cruz, and I got suspended for saying that. Not a realistic threat. I'm not traveling across the country to punch Beto O'Rourke. All right, I know that. But in the flip side, Craig, if my butt's at work, you know, and you walk down to the courthouse and tell them that, there's no realistic way for me to get there and defend myself. All right, it's not going to happen. But on the flip side of the flip side, if I can't get there for 48 hours, shouldn't you be able to say I'm free and clear of the firearms that he owns? There's got to be some, and I'm trying to find the best solution. I'm not looking for a compromise. Somebody's just got to take me to the water hole and let me drink there with you. I'm not there yet.
I will quote Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven when he said, "You shot Ned. Ned was an unarmed man. Well, Ned should have armed himself."
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Anyway,
he also said, "Get off my lawn."
Yeah. Look, all I'm saying is, man, is government. The more power you give government, the more they are likely to abuse it. And
exactly.
And
agreed.
Unfortunately, the folks who do this, or the people who put these things in place, have in the short time that they've been around, have abused them and are encouraging more people to abuse them. Abuse is becoming the norm of red flag laws, and I don't see it working. It's not working. It clearly isn't working because we see what's going on right now. Just saying.
Yes. No, I agree. I just, you know, I think we're 90% there together on this. I just, you know, you got to get correct and bring the rest of the 10%. We just got to find the right piece. The final answer.
There you go.
Final answer. Yeah.
Is that your final answer? All right, moving
I've been
right
called
along.
friends.
Second anniversary of George Floyd. All right, now I saw this one, and this story. This was at NPR, and I just had to comment on it. It was on the second anniversary of George Floyd's killing. Black Buffalo residents feel the weight, and the article goes on to talk about how, you know, black people feel targeted in this country and yada yada and all of that. Now, first of all, let me say, Mike, I am a black person in this country, and I do not feel targeted. What I find interesting about this is that in one case you had an incident of clear abuse of force by law enforcement. In the case of the Buffalo shooting, the Buffalo incident, you had an illegal use of force by an individual, by a person who clearly had mental issues. The only thing that the two have in common is that the killers were white and most of the people who died were black, right? That's really the only thing that they have in common. But then they act as if, black people don't kill black people. White people don't kill white people. Law enforcement officers don't take the lives of individuals justly, right? Or how about this? Black people have never taken the lives of law enforcement unjustly.
Never happens.
This whole thing to narrow in on these very little minute things, in my opinion, it is people looking to be victims, right? They want to claim victim status. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry you people feel that way, but in the end, they are two totally separate matters. Anyway.
Yeah. In the end, there could be only one.
In the end, there could be only one. I'm tired of us putting everything and trying to narrow everything down to race. And those people are out to get us. And how about this? How about we take a little ownership and responsibility, right? Yeah. Then let's just be frank here. And I'm not using this as an excuse to say George Floyd deserved to die. I'm not saying that. But if George Floyd had not been trying to pass a fake $20 bill, if he had not been high on fentanyl, there's a very good chance that whole encounter could have ended differently. I'm not saying
Craig, but the police only enforce the law against black people, not white people.
Right, because they don't arrest white people on fentanyl who try to pass fake dollar bills.
Don't arrest white people. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Don't break the law. You won't have to talk to as many cops. Yeah.
It's once again, I'm not saying that if that breaking the law means that you ought to lose your life or requires
Right.
use of force against you. But what
Agreed.
I'm
Agreed.
saying is that if you don't break the law and you comply with officers, the chances of your dying at the hands of those officers decreases dramatically.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
But we don't want to talk about that.
Nope.
All
No,
right,
we got other things to talk about.
let's move. Let's move along. We're gonna move along. So we all know for our parting shot today, we had something else planned, but these were some great ones that Mike came up with. And those of you who do not have small children probably do not know that there is a formula shortage in the United States. And now what we have here are a couple of solutions and challenges to that formula shortage. And this first one, well, I'll just call this one the Redneck Special. Leave me alone. There's no formula.
That's a baby photo right there. Right there. That's a good
That
one.
is
That's a baby photo.
Look,
Yep,
and
yep.
he's got his little mullet thingy going. Look, business in the front
That's it.
and party in the back.
That's
Now,
it.
you may have heard that thanks to President Biden, we have actually imported something like 78,000 pounds of baby formula from the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
But there's one problem, Mike.
Yeah,
well-
there's repercussions.
Yeah,
There are repercussions of raising
There
your
are
children on
repercussions.
the
By the way,
the
so
food
what
and
we're
milk
looking
of the
at here,
Brits.
what we're looking at here is a baby with well, as we
Austin
all know,
Powers
the British
teeth.
are
Yeah.
because they do not have fluoride in their water, are they are known for not having the best
Or
teethuses
toothbrushes in their bathroom.
or toothbrushes in their bathroom. And by the way, the other photo had a baby, what appears to be on a beach, downing a can of Coors.
Yeah.
Not even
And you know
Coors
that
Light, just Coors.
You know that kid's a badass because that's from the 80s before we had Coors east of the Mississippi. So that kid was probably took part in some kind of Smokey and the Bandit mission to get that beer, you know?
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Mike, it's about that time. Time for a shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, let's say hello to our good friends at new good friends at U.S. Combat Gear. Of course, the California Republican Assembly, Grid Defense, and Gorilla Machining. Gorilla.
Yes, folks, please make sure, once again, their links are in the description to this video or podcast if you're listening. Please do me a favor, click on the link, go there. If you see what you like, spend some money with them, and let them know that the guys over at The Rundown sent you. With that, we're going to call it a day, and we will see you again tomorrow on Feedback Friday. Please remember, like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same.
Tell them we said hey.
Hi.